Bam, 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 bam. Science, the January edition. Let's get this started with, people. Well, let's start off with some science. First of all, we're going to have to talk about convergence in carnivorous pitcher plants that reveals a mechanism about something that they haven't done before. Like, the whole title is Convergence in Carnivorous Pitcher Plants Reveals a Mechanism for Composite Trait Evolution. And that's pretty interesting in my opinion. Let's go ahead and see what it is once I find it. That is okay. Here we go. Now you know what pitcher plants are. They're the ones that look like little pitchers, and they have glass in them, and there's like fluid in them. I mean, not glass, and they use it to kill their enemies, like this. No, they don't do that. Actually, that's more of the Venus flytrap. But apparently, this is how they do it. They lure the insect in with like, there's food here, there's food here, and they're like, yay! That happens, and they come in, and bam! They go ahead, and they take the bait. And because they take the bait, there's not much else that they can do. So what do? They just get sucked in, and because they look at light, they think it's an opening, and so they go ahead into the light, and boom, it goes away. But then they found out some convergences in these pitcher plants, and that itself revealed things about the pitcher plant that we ourselves never known before, like a mechanism for complete trait evolution. Now, composite traits actually consist of multiple independent components that is in combination with a new synaptic function. Now, for example, bird wings combine adaptation of morphology, the bone anatomy, and skin appendages to convert a forelimb into aerofoil, and independent modifications of shape, coloration, and biosynthetic pathways. So yeah, here we go. Now, let me explain all this here. Now, composite traits involve multiple components that only when combined gain a new synergistic form. Now, how they evolve remains a mystery, but we can combine field experiments, microscopy, chemical analysis, and laser Doppler vibrometry with the comparative phylogenetic analysis to actually show that there are two types of carnivorous defensive pitcher plant species independently evolve similar adaptations in three distinct traits to acquire a new composite trapping mechanism. So yeah, they went ahead and they studied it a bit more, and they found out about the ways it did a composite trait evolution, and there's a new mechanism for composite trait evolution. So yeah, that's interesting. And there's even a few graphs that I hardly understand myself. There are a few pictures that actually help with it though, like actual pictures they took. Next up, we have a genetic basis of a recent transition to live bearings in marine snails. So there you go. Now, key innovations are fundamental to biological diversification, but their genetic basis is poorly understood. And so a recent transition from like egg laying to live bearing in marine snails, which basically went ahead, like egg laying to live bearing on marine snails. This actually showed genetic architecture of an innovation that has evolved repeatedly across animals, and individuals not clustered by reproductive mode in a genome-wide phylum, but local geological analysis actually revealed numerous small genomic regions where all live barriers actually carry the same core halotype. Let me explain. Now, candidate regions actually show evidence for live bearer specific positive section and are enriched with genes that are very differently expressed from the egg laying and the live bearing. So here we go. Now, snails used to just lay eggs on the marines because that's how they came to reproduce. However, later though, they went ahead and figured out this one thing: genetic basis of a recent transition to live bearing in marine snails. So here we go. Now, this recent transition between egg laying and to live laying, like what mammals do, is actually pretty new for these snails, and this is one big evolutionary step that we have still got to take, and we took it ourselves, but these guys have to take, and they finally took in it, and we have no idea. And Ada's selective sweep actually suggests that these live bearer specific alleles accumulated over more than 200,000 generations, and our results suggest that new functions evolved through the recruitment of many alleles rather than in a single evolutionary step. So I'm plagiarizing a bit more, but here we go. Basically, it means that marine snails are here, and these used to lay eggs, but then after 200,000 generations of crossing and rebreeding and those kind of things by themselves, they went ahead to these types of snails, the egg-laying snails. And since they lay the live-bearing snails, and since they give live young, this actually makes them more prone to awesomeness, because we have literally no idea how they did all this. Next up, we have the call of activism. Now, this is just a story about a guy named Andrew Sharrow, and he is currently an NSF postdoctorate fellow at the University of California in Santa Cruz. And you can do everything here too. Right, so this guy's PhD had been going well enough, and he loved his work, analyzing severe inherited immunology deficiencies in genes of those kinds of children. And he went ahead and he figured out something else. So he found out about a facility, and with a few friends, they decided to go in disguise into it. And at the facility, they discovered gestation crates were still in use, and they also witnessed widespread diarrheal diseases and untreated wounds and high piglet mortality, and they could still smell the ammonia smoked air and hear pigs banging their heads on metal bars, which is a typical stress behavior. And they documented the investigation online, garnering national media to medical care. And then the facility eventually announced that it would significantly reduce operations, and he remembered hoping his research would one day be equally impactful. And 1 year later, he and his co-investigator and he were charged with second-degree felony theft, burglary, forced rescue. Apparently, if they were found guilty, they were faced decades in prison. What did they do? They stole a sick pig. They stole 2 sick pigs. And then they were there, and then they decided, I didn't do anything wrong. Is this illegal? And eventually, 2 of his co-defenders went to trial, and they were testified, and he was testified as a witness, and the stakes were pretty high. If he messed up, his friends would go to jail. Luckily, the judge was all like, you know what, those pigs are so sick that it would be a negative impact on the company anyway. So, you guys, you're innocent. And now he's a postdoc studying conservative genetics, and he believes his research will have positive impacts in the long term. Many days, it still feels plodding. In contrast, the appeal of activism is constant and reignited every time he reads the news or friends tells him about their clashes with the legal system. And sometimes that works out, and sometimes, as he found out, you suffer the consequences. But as in science, the rare successes make it all worthwhile, to be honest. And that's it. Hopefully you actually understood this video well enough, especially the last story part. Nice science stories. I really enjoy the fact that they do these things. I'll see you guys soon. Until next time, out, wherever you are, whenever you are, however you're living, whatever you're doing, wear a helmet. Bye bye.